Okay. Well, um, we agreed a little while back to talk about what neat things you rely upon in the Macintosh or the Apple world. And so I titled the talk a little bit more generally than just the Mac world because you'll see what I have to say about that in just a second. But let's Okay, I'm sure I can do something to move on. There we go. So why did I not say just my favorite Macintosh tools? And there's a couple of reasons why. Um, One of which sometimes or many times the apps on iPhone and iPad, which are identical, or at least they perform the same function on iPhones and iPads, are often better than Mac apps. So it would be I can't I frequently switch back and forth between the three platforms, mostly the iPhone and the Mac. The second thing that software for the Mac is written so that they are compatible with each other, basically in the file world. So if you store something on an iPhone as a file, you can pick it up on on a Mac with a similar tool or the same named tool sometimes. And then finally, the iCloud basically takes care of all of the missing commonality between the three different when you're in three different locations by having the notion of a cloud storage. And this is, none of this is rocket science nor unique now to the Apple world. And by the way, chime in if you have a question. I'm happy to take them.
I
Um,
I have one
yeah,
regarding the last slide.
yeah.
On my Windows computer, I use there's a couple of programs available that are Android software emulators that allow
Yep.
you to basically run Android apps on your computer. Do they have something similar to that on the Mac that
There's
let
something
you
even
run
better.
iPhone apps on your
Yeah,
Mac?
they have even better. You can actually use your iPhone from your Mac. So it is a linkage between the iPhone and the Mac so that it'll take over your phone and give you identical behavior of what your iPhone app is doing. You just see it in a window on your Mac. That's certainly one of the things. And you just triggered a thought in my mind. I realize that all of these things, all of the tools I talk about, not only do they have analogs, but they have sometimes the same functionality because they're by the same manufacturer. And in particular, the one that I'll be talking about most, whatever it is, I'll remember it in a second, is one of those tools that you can get on a Mac or a PC.
Right, yeah. So I'm sure some of the things that you'll cover are
Oh, yeah.
cross-platform.
There's no question about that. I'm just trying to, if someone said, what do you really like about a Mac? That's what I focused on saying. And by the way, my history is a long, when I worked, I used a PC. And when I retired around 20 odd years ago, I switched over to Macs completely. And the company I worked for switched over when I pretty much the same time. So a lot of people at BBN now use Macs. Okay. Um, so this is not going to be one of those Mac or videos, which is entitled 23 Amazing Apps for the Mac, because I took a look at some of those videos and my head was spinning after I heard them. Either, or most of them were about sort of something that I really dislike is the Swiss Army knife apps that have 27 blades, do 47 things on 17 different areas. And typically the presenter of those videos just goes through them as fast as they can for some reason. I don't know why. And I do know that doing it in video is replacing them writing their thoughts down even in a presentation like this is my sense. And I watch those videos and I just turn them off after 5 minutes because I can't take it anymore. Um, and I will say that my memory has never been big enough to remember all the keystrokes and all those kinds of applications. Um, I have indeed learned the keystrokes of one or two of those kinds of applications, in particular, the one that I'm going to talk about. And I'm also never patient enough to figure out ahead of time which one of these gigantic functionality, do everything applications might I need? And I listen to them and about all these obscure things that I can't imagine ever using even. So that's just how I feel about those things, I guess is the way to say it. So what I wanted to do and what I started to do in thinking about this is, well, what are my favorite apps? What do I use daily? If there was, and I'm sure there probably is, an application that could tell you, watching me use my computer over a 8 hour period, what apps I used and how much I used them, um, and what keystrokes I used and how much I used them and stuff like that, it would be not very surprising, I guess is the proper way to say it. Um, so what I did is I went through and thought about all of the functions I do, and like screen copy is a function, and what programs that satisfy that functionality. In this particular case, it's a program called Snagit. Usually has a capital I on it, um, and um, and that application, as I mentioned, is available on both a PC or a Mac. And I'm sure there's some differences between the implementations, but I think it's the basic idea is present on both, and it's who knows which one is better. The next set of things that if you ask me today, what I really spend a lot of my time in are agent capable AI programs. And the three that I find that I'm using mostly now are Perplexity, Gemini, and Claude. Um, and uh, I've discovered that my activities have stepped up a level in the stack. So no longer am I way down there in the weeds. I'm thinking about what the purpose of what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm not saying this is intentional, but it turns out these programs have forced me to start thinking at a higher level because they can understand where I'm going when I talk in English as opposed to programming languages or keyboard shortcuts. The next most important set of things to me, because I like to write and I like to tell about things, are the Google Office suite. I'm not going to, uh, there's many Office suites. Some of them are expensive, like Microsoft. Some of them are quote unquote free for your giving up your privacy for Google. Some of them are open source, and they are wonderful too. I mean, I'm a big believer in open source. But anyway, I settled on Google Docs and the entire Google programming infrastructure uh, that you get to via an API. And I won't talk about that today, but it is really, I like the Google stuff because I should have actually added to that Gmail, because Gmail is a close cousin to the other three that Google does. Um, for Photo Manager, interestingly enough, I've settled on Apple Photos after a couple of different effects. One of which is I take most of my photos these days with with the latest release of the iPhone photo hardware and software. Um, I used to use uh, I used to use Lightroom as my photo manager and initial processor, if you will, of taking little things, selecting which photos are good and making corrections to them. I recently have decided, after looking at what I do, that um, that Apple Photos is good enough for what I want to do today. And what I really want to do today is these days is take photos and not to have to do a lot with them afterwards. And Apple Photos or Google Photos offers some higher level activities that I really like albums and presentations of videos. And you can do this in a variety of things. And just this last weekend, a friend of mine was having a 90th birthday party and he wanted to have a slideshow running. And so, what I would have normally done is gone through Apple. However, the person who was in charge of the AV equipment wanted to see it in Keynote. I'd never ever used Keynote before, but using some of my agentic AI programs, I found the steps I needed to do to produce what I would normally do in Apple Photos, and that was fine too. Um, System maintenance, I have only recently really started to pay attention because my 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 terabyte Mac was getting too full. And so I wanted to be able to cut back in terms of how much memory was being used. And so I resorted to using that program. And it's very good in terms of, for a Macintosh, it's a very good program it knows all about how a Mac works and it will keep the Mac clean. The browsers I use anything I need. I do use Brave for somewhat historical reasons. Brave is based on Google. I frequently go over to Google, and because I'm on a Mac, I frequently find myself in Safari. But those are the three that I don't do. I used to do all the other ones too, but I don't do them anymore. And then finally,
By Google browser, excuse me, you mean
Chrome.
Chrome, I'm assuming.
I mean Chrome. I should have said Chrome, right?
Okay.
But I think of it, yeah, right. Um, and then there's the other piece of the time I spend on my computer, which is entertainment. And by the way, I didn't say enough about the how often I switch between devices. Most of the entertainment stuff is done from my iPhone or my iPad, not so much from my Mac. But you could do a lot of this stuff from any of the three platforms. Um, I do listen to podcasts, I listen to music, and I listen to some of Apple's news because it's just easier to do than to go around the world and read all the possible interesting articles. And it came with with a bundle, so I took it. I also watch YouTube. Um, my wife and I have a daily luncheon appointment with ourselves, and we take courses on YouTube or sometimes other streaming channels like the Great Courses channel. But we also, and then I say YouTube and plus TV, as in we also have a subscription to YouTube TV, which I can watch on any of the devices that I have. I read the New York Times through a browser, typically, as well as the Boston Globe. Okay, so
Uh,
with that little introduction to
oh,
how I would answer this in the large, and I probably have missed some things, but that's basically what I came up with yesterday. Question?
yes. One thing just to add, for you had mentioned about a wedding. One of the things that my cousin's son did at his wedding recently was they put little cardboard cards with a QR code on them, and they put that at every table,
Uh-huh.
at every seat. And
Yeah.
then if you scanned it, it took you to Google Photo Library for the wedding, and you could take pictures with your phone or your camera and upload them to that wedding album,
Oh,
real
very nice.
time.
So it would link the person's phone with the uploading to the
Yeah, the
website.
link was a web link to the photo album, which was available for anybody. You didn't have to have a Gmail account.
Great. Well, that sounds very interesting. Yeah, I that's the way it ought to be done. My son got married a couple of years ago, and and people were sending things by hand into something similar. But you lose a lot of pictures that way if you have to make people work that hard.
Harry, can I
Okay.
ask you a question on distinction here?
Yeah.
Uh, the AIs have a generative function and a agentic function, and they're different.
Yes.
The,
Yes.
the, I think most
Well,
of us, I think, do the generative function, like give me a recipe for a whole dinner for five featuring beef. That would be generative. Whereas
yes.
agentic would be summarize my emails, find any appointments in emails, put them in my calendar, and do it every morning. That would be agentic function. What do you really do?
I do more than that. I say I'm thinking of an application that can do X, Y, and Z. I'd like it to work on any browser, and I will host it on my own file server. Could you please? And then I would tell it we would interact for several days on what it is that I really wanted this thing to do and whether I liked what it was doing or things like that. So it was a very much of an interactive and multiple versions of the program that would see and say, no, that's not right. Do it better than that or differently than that. And I frequently ask myself, would I have to have been a programmer in order to have this interaction like that?
Well,
And
that's a
yeah,
description of the process, but the
right,
output is either generative or agentic. The
right,
output.
right. I do both. I do both a lot. So another example that I do with well, I don't know. You tell me what it is. I never look up things in the user's manual for anything that I use. Instead, I focus on what am I trying to do. And so I always proceed it with in foobar program, how do I create a slideshow that has 77 slides and I want 5 seconds between slides and blah, blah, blah.
That's a
And
generative.
it would tell me the steps to use it in foobar program.
That's a generative.
Or yeah, and that's janitor. That's whatever that is. Okay.
Generative.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing I would do in them. And I free, yeah, or with my memory, I can't always remember words, the generic word for a particular instance of something. So, for example, I might do a question like, "What's a general term for a program like Snagit?" And it does a great job of knowing pop culture and what the latest versions of things. It reads Reddit and knows all this stuff, and it comes back with great suggestions. So that I use that frequently. Um, okay, so let's just go on. So today's focus, so there were a lot of things in that list, right? Screen copy, agentic, blah blah blah. Today I'm just gonna focus on the first topic, which is screen copying, and um, in particular the program that I use called Snagit. So screen copying. Why do I focus on screen copying? Well, I think it's the fastest, simplest way to communicate computing results to other people. It's what did I see on the screen when I looked this up or saw a display by the screen or something of that sort. Um, and I don't have to say, well, oh, yeah, I have it in this file. And if I run the program, I'll get the file to create the display and it will show. I just like saying what I'm seeing in front of me is what I want to talk about. So the easiest way to capture a screen on a Macintosh, as far as I know, is to hit the shift button, the command button, and the number 3, and you will get a
Harry, what are you doing?
what?
Sorry.
And- I'm sorry. And to do that, I'll just do one right now. So I just did that, and you'll see in the lower right-hand corner is a little image, and shortly will come up Snagit showing me that image, and I will make it readable. So that's what it took just with that three keys at the same time. And that's the fundamental thing. Okay, but that's not really what I want to do for always. But if you do nothing else, you'll have a record of what was on the screen before it disappears, and it puts it in a standard folder. And you can, so I find that some of my keystrokes indeed have gotten quite sophisticated in terms of being able to hit chords of keys to do the right thing. So Snagit is a screen capture program with many related actions to tune the screen captures. And it does get complicated, and you do invest some time in learning how to use it. Um, and so I do have Command Shift 3, as you saw, linked to invoke Snagit with the results of it. I don't always use it because there is a nice sidebar to capture or a nice sidebar capturing interface. You can't really see it here, but you'll see it now when I move my mouse over. I have this around at all times, and it's a little red button, it's like the shutter of a camera, and then it says you can do a bunch of things. I never touch these. All I do is hit this button, and it then asks me, what would you like to capture? And so if I only wanted to capture a part of this, I could just move these cursors around and do it to that. Although I sometimes just go over to the full screen, and it will then give me this selection, and that was what some of those words were all about. And I can do several things, one of which is I can take a still photograph, another of which is I can start recording a video. And the third one is I can capture a scrollable area on the screen. So for example, a website that goes on for, 27 inches, or to either up or down or left or right, can be captured with this program. But for the time being, I'm just going to again capture this window. Um, and again, you see it. What I'm doing when I do this, when it slims down, is I'm doing Command minus. So it's a nice, easy way to remember that. Um, so we'll go back to that. Um, and there is that button again. But I'll show you all the things that are on that button. Um, and that's okay. Okay, so say um, you weren't interested in the image, but rather in the text in the image. And that's what I would like to. All right. So that's what I'd like to show now. And I guess I have to shift over to uh, something else. Let's see, where do I go now? I guess I go back here and I choose something else to look at. How do I do that? Uh, maybe I could do it another way. Uh, Everything looks the same. Let's see. Okay, so say this was the image I had captured. Um, and you can read it, but I want to do something with the words that are in this image. So all I have to do in Snagit is to say, grab the text, and it will go through and get the text without any particular formatting or font size or things like that. And I can copy it all and then go back to one of my programs like this one. And because I can't do it while presenting, I have to go out um, of the let's see, yeah. Um, oh, I see. That's why this was there. This was done in a rehearsal. Sorry about that. So I could put a text box in my presentation. So I put it there, and I could say Control paste. Okay, well, so it comes exactly as it found it in the image. So I got to do some things to clean this up a little bit. And I can do something like um, change the color of the characters to something we can read. And now I can clean this up a little bit because I'm not really interested in those characters. And I want to get rid of the bullet points because I want to really add them. And I actually want this to be an itemized list, say, or maybe a numeric list. Let's just say, sake of argument. Okay. Oh, so what the fact that this didn't along with it means it's all just one line at a time. So I get rid of any line feeds and uh, yeah, and I'm going to take this and bring it. Uh, Up to the top. And now I have a slide that was essentially conformed to my interests, how I wanted it to look, and I can, make it piece of it. So all of the what was formerly bits is now text characters. Okay, simple idea, enormously powerful and useful at various times. So let's go back to the slideshow mode. Um, and let's go on to the next slide. So another set of things is that's very nice and really solves a difficult problem these days is say you want a long scroll of a website such as this one. Um,
The dreaded the town of Lexington website.
Exactly. In fact, yeah, it won't even come across to me. What's going on? Here it is. And this is a great website. For some reason, somebody got involved in putting you see the Minutemen off to the left there. Well, that didn't quite work out in their scheme. But if you refresh it, you I've been getting different images. Yeah, there we go. But this goes on for a while, and I might want to get the entire thing. And so I could go over to um, Snagit and say, oh yeah, capture the entire screen. Where is this? There we go. And you see this little box down here, and here is this scrollable area. So I'm going to say, let's do that. And I'm just going to, now you'll see this little preview thing here. When I scroll down, you'll see it's beginning to lengthen. And in fact, I can get the entire page that's much higher than any monitor can present in one fell swoop. So there it is. And then I can say I'm done. And it does take a little while at this point. It pauses while it tries to figure out how the hell to do all that. But now, while it's doing that, I should mention that people will say, well, gee, storing stuff as images is a very inefficient way of storing it. And I say, yeah. However, visually and images is how I get most of my stuff these days. So having to store it as some encoded text is not very useful. And furthermore, image compression has gotten, terrific in terms of so I don't worry about it anymore, especially when you can buy a computer 5 years ago with a terabyte of solid state memory on it. And I'm showing how long that lasted for me, which is just about 5 years.
So is this a PNG file that it's saving or a bitmap? What is it saving?
This is a bitmap right now, or it's whatever, it'll save it in whatever form I want. I'm just going to do something so we can see it's really all there. Okay, so there's that file in complete imagery. And that's, sort of interesting. But, what I really want to do is make reference to the fact that this is a big file, long file. So I'm going to do a couple of things that I know how to do because I know need to do them. I'm going to resize the image, not to be as big as it is right now in terms of bits, but just a smaller version of the file that we had. I'm going to increase it so we can see it. And then I'm going to do something that's kind of nice in terms of presentation, which is to cut out some of this file to let the people know that you're showing them something that's a lot bigger and but that you're going to use one of these lovely. Oh yeah, it was invoked. So what it did is it tore the bottom off of that file for presentation purposes. And one of the other really nice things about this is you don't have to save this to a file. You can just copy it to the clipboard and then come back in um, your presentation program, which is over here, and um, just put it in your presentation program and it will come in like that. And what I was really trying to show you, not only can you get all the content, but you can actually deal with it afterwards. Okay. Um, so, um, so what if, and this is sort of the end of the presentation, which is good, about a half an hour. Um, What if you wanted to capture a video of giving instructions how to use a program, say a new program you have just written? And a lot of people do this. And I wanted to get into to be able to do that myself with a new program I've just written. And so I've started to use, I'm still not very good at it, but started to use the video capabilities of Snagit. Um, and I guess, okay, so here is an example of a video I created using Snagit without an awful lot of processing afterwards. And I'll play that video for you now. It turns out the combination of Zoom uh, and a live presentation, and in general, my nervousness sometimes when giving these presentations, is that I felt it was safer to show you what the end results were. And this is a video explaining a little bit about a new program I wrote called Timelines. And someday maybe I'll talk about that. And I'll just show it to you to see what you can get for very little effort. Hello, I'd like to try and show you a demonstration of a program I just wrote. And it is a timelines program, and it allows me to show the events of many different swim lanes, which is what the term for this is. And in this particular case, it's a gift I gave to a friend who just turned 90 about things that went on in his life, both in terms of his life, history, what went on in Lexington, things of that sort. Okay, and in fact, in terms of representing the program, it's a poor representation of all the things it can do. However, you can click on any, just for your information, you can click on any of those lollipops, and it will open up to a rich multimedia piece about that particular event in that particular topic. And the thing that was most important to me on that was to do as much of the gathering of information using AI, both regular Google searches, but also AI searches that do a lot of extra thinking about what was really asked. And so I knew I had a lot of people who were not going to spend a lot of time doing this unless we offered them some assistance, and that's what I really tried to do. Okay, yeah.
How did you get this video? I mean, what's the program? What's the app that you're using to make your video?
Uh, Snag it. If you'd like, I'm willing to try to see if I can show you exactly how to do it. Or what you have to do. Not that this is an instruction on how to do it, but let me try that now. And if I run into any trouble, I'll bail out. So let's see how I did that. What do I want to do? I want to first of all get the timelines program. So here's the program to show you what else it can do besides just show lollipops like that. Here is the swim line about the Lexington Symphony because my friend Fred was very involved in the formation of the Lexington Symphony. That's why I put it in there. And here's what happens when you click on the lollipop about the first concert at Carrier Memorial Building. Not only has a little, this was all, everything here, everything for a little while was done by AI, taking a string like first concert at Carrier Memorial Symphony, Lexington Symphony 2005. That was the extent of the prompt. And from that prompt, I got this first thing, which was the sort of the basic two sentence version of it, and then I got this wonderful Google AI summary, which told a lot more about how this all worked, and it came a lot of this information came from Lexington Symphony websites, but an awful lot of others came from other places. And furthermore, there was there's the ability to include other types of information.
With this very special piece by Rafe Vaughan Williams, Yuki Beppo.
So I can include arbitrary length references to YouTube videos. It's really an integration of a lot of different pieces of information that are available on the web, done in a way that addresses the time relationship between when these events happened. And I got this idea when my father died 20 years ago, and we produced a brochure to hand out to people at his memorial service. And he lived from 1907 to 1997, sort of an amazing period of time of 90 years. And this is, by the way, not Fred was born in 1936, and I went to his birthday party at 90 on Saturday. So he's got some more years to go than my dad did. But
Stan, Harry, when I die, you're going to give people a QR code for my life?
yeah, you could. You could give people a QR code, and they could read this. Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying you're going to reduce it's my life so far. Please notice the title I used on Fred's line was Fred's life so far. I was very careful about not being predictive about when he was going to pass on. That's a little hint. So anyway, so how do I produce that? Okay, so let's try and produce it. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, sure, why not use the whole screen? Okay. And I'm going to say do it in video. So I came down to the bottom, and now you see my voice, and we're not running anything yet. And I say things like show the cursor and put the camera on. And I guess if anything happens on my computer, you're going to hear it too. But it is picking up my voice from my the MacBook microphone. Okay, so let's go ahead and say we're ready to roll. So I'll click that button, and I get 3 seconds to. Hi, my name is Harry Forsdick, and I've developed a new app called Timelines, which is useful for relating events in history. And when it includes an individuals, it's a nice way of seeing what was happening when they, for example, went to Harvard University. So here's a picture of my friend Fred and a date when he was at Harvard with proof by the banner in the back. But what else was going on in 1955? Well, Joseph Stalin had just died. Brown versus Board of Education happened right around that same time. Route 128 opens going through Lexington. And let's just see what that's all about. So I click on that, and I get a picture of what it looked like going through Lexington, and a little more information about America's technology highway. And then there's a reference to Wikipedia. And an awful lot of the information coming from this application comes through Wikipedia. And okay, so I'm going to stop this right now. Okay, so how do I stop it? No, I guess I do something like this.
Start by hitting pause.
Uh, oh, I can't hit. No, no,
Hit that pause right there, right there,
right there. That's what I'm trying. All right.
and now
And
hit the blue button.
I got it. I got it. No hints, please. Okay. So here is the actual recording. And I can play it back. Hi, my name is Harry Forsdick, and I've developed a new app called Timelines, which is useful for uh, relating events in history. And when it includes an individuals, it's a nice way of seeing what was happening when they, for example, went to Harvard University. So here's a picture of my friend Fred and a date when he was at Harvard with proof by the banner in the back. But what else was going on in 1955? Well, Joseph Stalin had just died. Brown versus Board of Education happened uh, right around that same time. Route 128 opens, going through Lexington. And let's just see what that's all about. So I click on that and I get a picture of what it looked like going through Lexington. And okay, so you get the idea of what it's doing. And furthermore, I can go down and I think I can go down.
There.
That's what I'm trying. All right. So I can actually trim this. Let's see. Stop this right now. Wikipedia, and I can. Okay. So I want to back this up a little bit, and I want to trim it. And now what I want to do is save this as a new video, and it saves it as an MP4. And I can then, what I'm going to do instead of saying copy it to the clipboard, I mean, that would be a pretty big file, pretty big set of characters for a clipboard. I'm going to actually save it to my file system, save as, generic name, that's great, and downloads. And then I can go back to my presentation by getting rid of this. Getting rid of that. Can't, something's funny about that. And I'm going to come up here. No, that's not what I wanted.
I can't even get your coffee anymore.
I don't know. Yeah. Now, where did everything go? I'm in Chrome. That's what the problem is. I'm not in my own browser. Okay. All right. Now we go. And now I want to go over to my presentation. Yep. And now we're back to the point. I'm not going to reintroduce it, but this is what it would look like when you brought it back into the slideshow and you could, I'd like to try and show you a demonstration. So, but my point is you could take that and treat it as any kind of information, put it on Google, Google Drive and send a URL to it, and you would get that particular piece of instruction. So, any other questions? So let me just see where I am. Where am I? Yeah, I'm pretty close to the end. So that's what Snagit looks like. And it's, I do a lot of things in it because I like to show off what I've done but do it not in the full multimedia that I experience it or expect people to experience in it. So that's pretty much my information about Snagit. And then finally,
that's all, folks.
So Harry, is the important question, is there a PC equivalent to Snagit?
yes, it is implemented by the same people on PCs.
Does it have the same
It's
name?
called TechSmith. TechSmith is the company.
TechSmith is the company that
Yeah,
does
I'm a licensed user of it on Windows.
program. It was originally a Windows freeware.
How do you spell TechSmith?
TechSmith.
By the way, Harry, there's one
it's
application
not
of
free.
the Snagit that
Not anymore.
I find really interesting. It brings
That's
two
not
things
free.
together.
I can't hear you because two people talking. Say again.
Exactly. There's one application of using these Snagit type tools that brings
Yes.
two things together. We all know that AI is a very good help desk for technical problems. And
Yep.
what I do is if I run into something I don't understand, I'm lazy. I'll just take a screenshot of the error message and say, what is this and how do I fix it?
Absolutely. That's a very good point. I do that in all my programming, especially when we're in the middle of some weird thing and I get an error message. I take a snapshot of it and feed it into Claude and say, you can, or I take a snapshot of a, not only even an error message, but just a malformed thing or something different I want, or some complaint I have about the spacing of the lollipops on those. And I can say, as you can see from the spacing, not doing any numeric thing, but just look at it yourself and see what you think. And that's really terrific. And I that's where you're going, I think, right?
Yeah. I do the same
Yeah.
thing I do in text space is I'll take a program that I'm writing and I'll give the text to the AI and I'll give the error message and say, what's going on here? Which is the
Yes.
lazy man to debug something. But it works very well.
And very soon that won't even be a thing because the screen will be in the shared context between you and your agent. So you can just say, look right there,
Yeah. And the only thing I found with that is a lot of times if I'm doing something that's a little arcane, I end up going around in a loop. It'll tell me to do something that it already said to do before, and I keep going around and around. And even if I tell them, no, you're full of crap, you told me to do this before, they say, oh, I'm sorry, and they'll tell me something else they've done before.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot of to be revealed if you ask, show me what you're thinking, and I see it and I say, oh my God, you're going down the wrong path. It couldn't possibly be that, but but I have the exact same experience on doing this stuff. Is that it is changed the way I think about doing things. I don't get down in the weeds anymore. It's just too much. And the programs are these are some of the most complex programs I've ever written. Uh, Timelines is one example. Another one is I did a memorial to a friend of mine whose grave was never marked. And so I took my 360-degree camera out to the cemetery and put it right over where he was buried. And so now I have a virtual tombstone to my friend Ray Tomlinson, and I'm about to release that too. You guys will. I'll send you a link to it, and it does all sorts of spherical photography stuff, and you can rotate yourself around where Ray is buried. It's a beautiful location in Lincoln, and then I presented a lot of information about Ray on the sort of outside of this rotating sphere slash cylinder. Anyway, so I think that's pretty much it for me for today. And let me turn this over to Steve.
Well done, Harry. Thank you.
Thanks, Harry.
If anybody wants to go down blind pathways, try Copilot.
My Copilot.
Copilot is the worst.
Uh-huh.
Copilot being blind is by using Copilot. You're blind.
That's why it's Copilot.
The pilot's gone.
I'm going to stop sharing if I can figure out how to do it. I got it. All right, there we go.
Copilot lights out.
Yeah, right. He's a Copilot. He's a pilot.
So I guess it's me now.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let me share my screen. This is going to be kind of off the cuff, so if you have questions, please be sure to ask. Yes, Drew, did you have a question?
You're muted.
No, I didn't have a question.
All right. Well, I think the first thing I'll talk about is not really related to Macintosh. It has to do with the Eero. Let me see. I want to take a second here and make sure that I want to be able to show the meeting so I can see people. There we go. Um, you can see on the screen here, first of all, on the left is Eero, and I want to talk about this because this is something that's really dramatically changed my use of the internet here at the house. I've had a number of routers, including the one that was supplied by Verizon, and I've had very bad signal in certain places of the house. So I bought this a unit Aero Mesh, and I paid not this price. I paid a lot less than that because it was down at $140, and it was very simple to put in. I put the one device in, did some setup of it, and added the other two to it, and all of a sudden, every place in my house has great Wi-Fi, which actually kind of surprised me because I wasn't expecting it that way. So I'm not trying to sell this. All I'm saying is if you have a Wi-Fi at your house and you don't have great signal in all the places, you might want to look into a mesh network. And for instance, I found this particular one here.
Steve, what kind of router do you have that you hook this into?
What I do is I take the one device and attach it up directly by a Ethernet cable to my Verizon router.
Okay, so you start with your Verizon router. Okay.
Yes. Then I tell the Verizon router to stop supplying the various Ethernet, the Wi-Fis. So it's not doing Wi-Fi 2.4 or Wi-Fi 5 or 6. So it's not sending any Wi-Fi out. It's all going through the Eero. I add the other two Eeros and all the devices connect up. Actually, I can't say all the devices because I'm having a little trouble because I didn't quite do it that way. You have to set the device to be a bridge, and I didn't, and so I have some work to do. But the fact that I'm doing this right now through Wi-Fi and that I'm able to do Wi-Fi other rooms in the house is very nice with a good signal.
And I have an Iris system that I do the same thing. I have extenders that I just use, and I have a couple of old routers that weren't routing very well. And I changed them into APs, access points. And so now I have complete coverage in the whole house the same way. It's really
amazing. So considering a mesh type of system or what Peter is doing would be something to look into if you're having issues in the Wi-Fi. Most typically, your spouse comes up to you and starts complaining about Wi-Fi in the house, and then you start thinking about what to do. The other thing I wanted to point out is you were talking about Snagit, and it sounds like a very powerful, but it's got a yearly charge, and that's what I wanted to point out. Something else I wanted to point out, you talked about screen recording, and there's something called OBS Studio, and somebody mentioned that in the chat. This is free software, and it allows you to do a screen capture in a live mode, which is nice. I haven't used it very much. This is kind of what it looks like, and you can see it's recording or detecting my audio. And if I click on the video capture device, it'll show me because I have it doing that. I haven't used it enough. Perhaps somebody else who has more experience in this can talk more about this at some other time. Questions so far?
I use OBS and I like that too. There is an app called KSNIP, KSNIP. It's multi-platform. It works. I know it works on Linux and Windows. I think it might be on Mac as well. And it captures and annotates and does half of three-quarters of what Snagit can do.
Okay.
I tend to do subscriptions when they're reasonable because I really do appreciate the improvements. As long as an application is being actively worked on, I found it worthwhile to rent it because you do get you don't get stuck with something that's last year's model. Um, on the other hand, there are many things that I also um, am looking at. Do I really need that anymore? I wish I really didn't need Photoshop anymore, but I hesitate to cut the cord, as they say, um, because Apple Photos is great and everything, but it isn't anywhere near as capable as Photoshop. However, I'm also not as capable of using it, so whatever.
So I didn't mean to put Snagit on. It sounds like a really good program. I think it's just worth considering other options as well.
Yeah.
These are some of the other things I'd like to talk about here. Many times when I'm running these meetings, I like to grab a copy locally of a video so that I don't have to worry about the advertisements that will interrupt it, and I don't have to worry about a possible loss of internet. So I use a combination of Any Video Converter Ultimate, which was a paid application, Clip Grab, and Handbrake, which are not. Those are free. So to demonstrate this, there is a video here that I can play part of. I'll stop it because I don't want to play the whole thing. You can. It's on the internet. Just look for Zoetrope, I guess. He's obviously has a streamer, a strobe going that is synchronized with the images on there, which is rather interesting. But what I did was I wanted to download this. So what I need is this particular URL here, and I copy this, and then I go to something called Clip Grab, and let's see. I already did this, but if I go here, collect it all, and go over to Clip Grab, and I paste it, it will take a look at it, and it will ask me, after it analyzes it, it'll say, do you want to grab this clip? And I have some individual things that I can work with. I click grab this clip. I click grab this clip, and it asks me where I want to put it. So if I put it into downloads, and I'll call it number 2, because I did that earlier. It starts it, and it finishes it. And if I go over here and I take a look, there we go. There are the 2 of them in this particular directory.
Steve, does that download ads and things that are attached to the content, or can that cut through that somehow?
It doesn't download ads. It skips the ads.
And Steve, there's another application that I use does something similar, and I think, in my opinion, it does it a little more efficiently. It's called 4K Video Downloader.
Okay.
I know for sure it's PC. I don't know if it exists on the Mac.
Doesn't that download the ads though?
No.
No? Oh, because I have it.
I know it's on PC. There were some issues with it on Linux, which they may have fixed. Mac,
and that comes down. You can also get very high res, and then you can talk about Handbrake, which I think is a wonderful program too.
So anyway, you see that I was able to download it. I also use DaVinci Resolve. You can take this into DaVinci Resolve and pull extracts, add things to it, include it in part of a program and so forth.
So is that an MP4 file that you can put into?
Yeah.
Right there.
You can put it in DaVinci.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently you have other choices too. After it analyzes it, I'm not going to download it a third time, but you can also go to MP3, which you wouldn't want. I think MP4 would be the best choice here, and you get to choose your quality. They usually choose I mean, for the use I have, 720 works out well. This is free software. When you download it, it comes on the Mac. I'm not sure if it goes on other.
It's 11 o'clock.
Sorry. I'm not sure if it works on Windows. That would be something for somebody to check.
Well,
And
Steve, this goes. It deals with all the restrictions that YouTube has on just downloading them yourself. Is that
I'm not aware. I don't know.
Okay. But it is doing something like that because there's lots of different things, and sometimes what YouTube does is it changes their representation arbitrarily just to defeat such things. But I'm sure the clip grab industry is well on top of that. Yeah.
Yes. I do know that when I do grab a clip and include it in a program, in fact, the fact that I've done it here, when I produce this, may give me a call out on the fact that I'm including this video.
Yep.
I threw into the chat a program that's open source, works on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And it's the program that I use to grab videos off of any server on the internet.
Okay. That'll be in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's the name of it?
That one is called
YouTube
YT Downloader.
Yep.
It's in the chat. I'll be posting the chat on the wiki.
Yeah, that's
assuming that I'm able to get the wiki working again.
Oh, the what?
older program.
Older program. What does that mean? Too
And
complicated?
4K video download.
Oh.
Let's see. ClipGrad. Any video converter ultimate also lets me convert. For instance, I was going to show that here. So if I want to do any video converter ultimate, whoops. This I find useful if I want to store it on a different device. For instance, there's this one here. So if I want to take the Rooster March, no, that's the wrong place to get it from. I have to get it from the download. And I want to take Rooster March and I put it over here. This is demo mode, so it's likely it may not work. But if I wanted to store it here to a format for an Apple iPad or an iPhone or something, it will automatically reformat it and so forth so that it will be appropriate for that device and be smaller. So here, it's going for an iPad mini right now. And I'm sorry for the small type, but here it says it's H264 1280 by 720. It's undetermined, it's AAC, and there's no subtitle. So if I want, I can choose a different device, an Apple iPad mini, an iPhone 6S, other Apple iPhones, other devices. If you wanted to go to an iMovie format or Final Cut Pro, if you're an Android person, and so forth. There's other places it can go. So you can choose what you want. You select this one, and then you do you specify where it's going to go, and then you do a convert, and it'll convert this to one that will fit, in this case, on an iPad mini. Questions? This is a paid application.
Did we talk about Handbrake?
Handbrake, you might be to talk about that a little bit more, Peter. I haven't used it very much. I do know that there are times when any video converter can't do it, and also when ClipGrab can't grab it. And I've found that Handbrake seems to come in and save the day.
Yeah, Handbrake is pretty good. I've never had a problem with it. In fact, what I do is I will have a video that I get from any number of sources locally, And if you click on a video, most of the time, in the properties of the MP4, whatever video you have, it'll tell you what the characteristics are of that video, all the internals of what's going on. And again, talking about using AI, I'll take a picture of that or a screen grab of that. I'll go to my favorite AI program and I would say, okay, how do I convert this to play on a XYZ, giving it the specific devices that I have. For example, I'll have a USB in my Samsung DVD player that's going through my Denon receiver and going to my TV if I want to watch a movie. And it will tell me what setups to use in Handbrake, because you can set it for almost anything that will optimize the output of the audio and the video for those devices in one grab. Plug it in there and off you go. And that looks like, yeah, that's Handbrake right now.
It is. And in fact, it turns out this is familiar, so I have used this as well.
Yeah. And you got lots and lots and lots of selectivity. If you go to the first tab, Steve, that
dimensions or
up on top, the preset. Go down a little further. On the third line on the left-hand side. There we go. But all those are presets that some of them have to do with the resolution and what you want to do. Expand the web one.
You missed the show.
They'll tell you a bunch of what on the web. And then you can go down to devices. And there's all your phones and Apple devices. But they're more technically described than physical devices. And then you can go down to further to the MKV, or I forget what MKV stands for, but that's the 264 deal. Mark Pro or something like that. And that's has to do with the video compatibility. It gives you pretty much anything you want, anything you need. You can get it to play on any device.
And how much does it cost?
The price is right. You pay me $400, but you can download it for free.
So what we've shown so far here is the Eero does cost something, as you can see on Amazon. Any Video Converter Ultimate, you can get a free version, but if you're going to be using it for any period of time, it's worth buying, as I've done. Clip Grab and Handbrake are free, as is OBS Studio. Okay. Couple other applications. One of them I use here is called Battery Monitor. Which is a simple little application that just shows how the battery is doing on my device. Why is it taking so long? I don't know. I'm going to exit some of these applications. There it is. It shows that my battery capacity is 100% with a 7960 milliamp hours available. And it's currently at 80%. So my device is doing the smart charging by not always going up to 100%. I'm currently on a source from electric outlet. The health is good, I guess, 108 cycles. That's really good on the battery. You're trying to keep it under 500, I guess, or under 700. And here we are at 108, which is really good.
Front door.
Okay, that's this one. Angry IP scanner is nice. I'm finding this useful with regards to my employment of the Eero to find out what devices are on my system. So I know that my current device is in the 192.168.1 network. with a mask of an 8-bit mask, or I think a 24-bit mask. So if I go like this, it's going to do a range from 1.0 to 1.255. This is my device Mutsu, and it's going to look for all of the devices on my current network. And tell me what their MAC address is, what it can find out about them, and the IP address of it, so that if it took 18 seconds or so. So if I'm looking for one of my cameras, here it is, it says I'm Recam Technology. Here's one of my cameras, and that's my IP address for that. And there's the MAC address, which is what I can use to find it. I can sort by MAC addresses, so that if you're looking for something by the MAC address, manufacturers have a range of MAC addresses. You can do that. Questions so far? Next, delete apps. Now, there are a number of programs I think that can be used to delete applications. Now, this is Mac specific. Whenever you load an application, of course, you have a place where it's got the exe on a Windows or .com on a Windows, or the .app on a Macintosh, but it's going to store other things in other places. And this sort of application, I thought I brought it over here. I did. This sort of application will let you find applications on your system and delete them. It'll delete all parts of it, or do the best it can to delete all the parts of it. I don't have any that I want to delete right now, although I see a couple candidates, but if I wanted to, I would pick one of these here, like LibreOffice, and you can find the details of it. Okay, it's stored in application support, and it's stored in the library, and it's stored in applications. And here's how much space it takes up: 38 meg in the application support library, and then 791 meg for the application itself. So if I wanted to, I could then delete this application, which I don't want to do. I'm done with this, but I haven't told it to delete anything. Questions on this? I wonder if there's something like this on the Windows. I'm sure there must be something on Windows.
There is.
Yeah, there's a few of them you can use.
Okay.
Just your lips of just your apps. There's an app list that does that. It's an app list. It does that on settings.
Yes, it does. It is an app list.
Yeah, but it's not as clean. It doesn't clean up the registry.
No, it does not.
Which is the problem. UIBit uninstaller, I think, is the one that I have, and that will actually go to the registry and clean up all that stuff.
There is no registry on the Mac, which is
that's your loss.
I've dealt with the registry in the past.
It's fun. Come on, Steve. If you have nothing to do for a week or two, it's nice to go through the registry.
There you go.
That's a restore point.
Yes, and I've done that. I've been there for.
If Windows didn't have so many problems, I wouldn't have a job.
There you go.
Exactly. I believe in full employment.
So another one I'm going to show is Mac's fan control, which is useful if you have a MacBook. I wondered if there's something like this on the Windows. I don't have the answer. But on my particular Mac, there's two fans, one on the left side and one on the right side. And it tells what the current speed is, and it's set for auto, which means that it'll determine when it has to go. What's amazing to me is that the temperature here is so low. And that's because this is an M1 processor, which runs at a much cooler. But it shows me the temperature for each of these. Excuse me? Shows me the temperature for each of the different parts of my system, so that I can say that I want this particular left side fan to go along with a given item here Oh, okay, constant. So it's new for me on this machine. Another one I'd like to show is speed test. Oops.
Steve, if I could go back to the speed fan on my Macintosh, whatever I have, there's an app on it, but it works. I have it working. It actually looks at the load on the chip, and before it heats up, the fan goes.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's
In Windows, because there's such a variety of hardware, it's all dependent on the manufacturer, and it's usually in their drivers and software downloads.
Yeah. You can get Speed Fan on Windows.
Yeah. You can use it, but it's a little too
So
generic.
here's a question for you, Drew, on that. Why would I screw around with the fan controls on my machine?
I used it only once in my life, and that was because I was working for a company that made a video entertainment booth, and it kept shutting down. And I used SpeedFan to discover the fan speeds and the temperature of the CPU. And I was learning that I needed better fans than were in there because the CPU was getting too hot, and that's why it was shutting down.
All right, so as a diagnostic tool for a problem, you would use it. But ordinary day-to-day use, who cares, correct?
Well, if your chips are getting close to their limit, you probably don't want that. You probably want to increase the fan speed.
I tell you what I do on a daily basis is my computer runs a program that monitors the temperature of my hard drives, my internal hard drives. So I know how hot they are, how hot they're running.
But I mean, when you say you run it every day, what does that mean?
Well, it's a program that starts up automatically when I boot my computer. And
so you have a map, a data map, if you will, of the hard drive during the day.
On Windows, if I go into my system tray, I have 2 hard drives inside my computer, and one of them right now is at 47 Celsius, and the other one is at 42. I can see them right inside my taskmat, right inside that little pop-up window that you can on your taskbar.
Yeah, interesting.
It's called Hard Drive Sentinel, HD Sentinel.
It also now works on SSDs, I believe.
Yes, I have it monitoring my SSDs. I can monitor the health of those.
SSDs have much more of a heat buildup problem, particularly when you get into the 4th and 5th generation.
And you're playing a game.
I've learned that my SSDs heat up a lot if I'm doing a large file transfer. If I'm copying several gigabytes over to or from the drive, it gets hot.
Very. Again, that's because of the 4th and 5th generation.
So I guess I'm using the Max fan control to monitor the temperatures to look if I have a problem ahead of time. What I noticed, the SSD is the coldest thing, almost the coldest thing on my device, which is kind of neat. So I can almost cool my hands off in the summer. This one over here is called Speed Test. It's useful to see how fast your internet speed is. I've noticed that my internet speed is about 90 megabits per second, even though I'm paying for 300. But I think that's because I have a number of other things going on. I have Backblaze running on this machine, so it's doing a constant backup. We have other machines doing other things in the house. So this is showing that my download and my upload speeds are fairly decent. When you go to a different place, to a coffee shop or to a friend's house, you can also see what the speed is right there. It's rather handy for something like that. This is also free.
Ookla is the company, Ookla.
Isn't that online or you don't download it, do you?
You can download it. You can do it online. You can get the app from the App Store, from the Microsoft Store. Hey, Steve, by the way, the temperatures that you show there on your fan control, those are Celsius. So I wouldn't worry about cooling my hands at 38 degrees Celsius.
Yes, 38 is, yeah, it's a bit warm there, isn't it? About 90 degrees or so. Okay.
Steve has the refrigerator.
Yeah,
on all
yeah,
SSD.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd mention that in passing.
Put your finger on it, let us know.
You can fry eggs on it and cool your hands.
Actually, I have a device that can tell me where it's hot. At any event, a sync thing is one that Drew has mentioned in the past. If you have more than one computer or device and you want to synchronize the files between them, I have two computers and I like to synchronize them. This actually helps me get around an issue. I have Backblaze running on my machine, which is taking all of my files and backing them up to the sync thing, to the Backblaze cloud. There's no limit on the amount of space of things I can back up. It's just that it can only back up things from one machine. However, if I have an external drive attached to my device, my MacBook here, and I have sync thing running to take all the files from my second machine and copy them to my external drive, I can have Backblaze back up the external drive. So that means that Backblaze is backing up two machines, but it's really backing up only one machine and a copy of the other. No questions? The next application I wanted to talk about is Beyond Compare. This is a paid application. SyncThing is free, but Beyond Compare does cost something. And what this is, it allows me to compare files and directories based on a number of different parameters, so I can look for changes and differences. So if I was trying to copy all of my photos from a number of different directories to one directory, I could use this program Beyond Compare to do that, and I would see that I have newer ones on one side or the other and decide which ones to copy. Time Machine is something that's intrinsic to Macintosh. There are applications that work in a similar fashion. One of them is called Genie, I believe, that lets me, it automatically backs up everything on my machine, and I can get back to it very easily. Open Time Machine. Oh, backups. This is a bit awe-inspiring when it comes up. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see all the different ones?
Yes.
Okay. But you can see that there's a number of them, and you can go through the time and see different times that the backups are done. I haven't done too much of this, but it's reassuring to know that in case I accidentally delete something, I can get it back rather quickly. The next one deals more with security. I use KeePass to manage all my passwords. And another one is Bitwarden. Bitwarden is free for personal use. I don't want to go into a great deal of detail on this because we've done that before. But by keeping all my passwords in a program such as KeePass, at a KeePass file, or in Bitwarden, I can make it available to me from many different machines and secure. It's also good when you're passing things on to your descendants when the great computer in the sky opens up its doors, so that they can get at all your passwords and pay all your bills and get at all your money and so forth. That's Bitwarden, which is free, and KeePass, which it requires a little more work because you need a program on your machine, and you also have to have a place to store it, which can be on a memory stick or it can be up in the cloud, and it's encrypted up there. Cryptomator is real handy if you have files that you want to store up in the cloud, but you don't want it to be compromised if, for instance, I store files in iCloud or Dropbox or Box or pCloud, and one of them gets compromised, they will see a Cryptomator crypt, but they can't get at the files in it unless they know the password. So it's like a second level of security. Even the people who manage that, if somebody at a Box or a Dropbox decides to start looking through people's directories, they won't be able to get anywhere with my files because it's stored in Cryptomator. Along that line, another security is NordVPN. There's ExpressVPN, and there's several others. The best use of VPN is to keep other people from being able to see what you're doing, especially if you go into a Starbucks or a Pete's and you want to do banking. Sure, you have the HTTPS, but people can still see that you're talking to a bank. But if you have a NordVPN or ExpressVPN running on your machine, all they know is that you're sending traffic to a server someplace else. They have no idea where it's going. And since it's encrypted, both with the HTTPS, and also with the NordVPN tunnels, they have a great deal of difficulty seeing what you have and perhaps be unable to do that.
Steve, you're paying for NordVPN?
Say again, please.
You are paying for NordVPN?
Yes. Bitwarden, Cryptomator, and KeePass XC are free. You can pay for Bitwarden, but for individual use, you don't have to pay. NordVPN and ExpressVPN and several others are paid. And with regards to VPN, since you want to make sure that they are going to respect your privacy, there's value in paying for it. Okay, LibreOffice is, well, you're familiar with Microsoft Office, no doubt. LibreOffice is something that's very similar to Microsoft Office. It's free, and it offers you a Word equivalent, an Excel equivalent, and a PowerPoint equivalent, or they're not maybe equivalents, but they're close to it, and lets you do the work that you want to do perhaps with Microsoft Office without having to pay the Microsoft Office fees. It's open source and it's free. And I'm planning on participating in helping them run it or build it and make it bigger. And anybody else have experience with LibreOffice?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I use it.
Another is Sweet Home 3D. Let's see if I have enough time to bring that up. This is really neat when you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your house. It lets you draw floor plans and so forth. You can't see it, but it's starting to come up with a real pretty logo on my other screen. And you can do your floor plans. And it's also free. And it has a 3D way of showing you what's in the room.
You do have to build the floor plan from scratch, though, correct?
That's correct. Okay, this is new.
So do you take pictures and you load up pictures into this? Of what your floor of what 3D looks like now?
It looks like they're starting to charge for this. So I need to, I'm going to stop this right now. What you do is you start and you have a graph and a graph paper in front of you, and you draw your walls and you can set them to be certain lengths. You put your doors, your windows, you put your furniture in there, and you can come up with something that looks like this if you put enough time into it.
And that's a lot of time to put all that stuff in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting. This is the first time I've run into this.
I've used these things before, and they are very time consuming. And the results.
Just think how long it would take to draw those little stones on the.
Well, you don't have to. You just no. I'm saying you can say fill it with a pattern, but there's a AutoCAD is a very expensive program that's used by professionals, and it's much faster and much better.
And very complicated to use.
Yeah,
and some of those run into the thousands of dollars too.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's definitely for the big boys.
this would be something that I'd use when I wanted to go to an architect and show them what I wanted, or to go to a builder and get a pricing. The other ones I was going to talk about was my tuner radio, which is just an application that runs up here that lets me choose the music that I like to listen to, and it's free. Tempest stopwatch is one that I use to track how long a meeting is going. And AnyTrans is something that lets me copy files from my phone to my Macintosh. And it can work across on other machines.